Thank you, Asif, and thank you for the assembly and the organizers, N5, and our friends in MarketBuzz for bringing us together today. Remove all the titling that you heard and consider me a human being in front of you. I'm a co-learner here in the room. There's always something new to learn. What we will be considering, the topic that we will be talking about today is hopefully touches upon our work lives. We all work in different types of teams, small teams, big teams, with different levels of satisfaction and organization. So let's see how today, I hope that every one of us feels like at least taking something meaningful to their work life back home. The futurists of work 100 years ago anticipated that with all the technologies and all the new advancements that we have in innovation, that 100 years later, people will need to work less, to have less stress at work, and to have our work lives more efficient. Interestingly enough, today we are with unprecedented levels of stress at work. Many people, some statistics say over 60% of the working force is experiencing burnout, different levels of stress, and so on and so forth. So we are in a very interesting moment in history. We have all those advancements, but we are still looking for ways to work better together. And that's why I'm interested in this topic. It fascinates me, and I hope that we together come to learn something together about it. Before I start, I'd like to tell you a little story about how I arrived to this spot. 15 years ago, when I started in this field, I was a little junior consultant interested in changing the worlds of work, and I was very hopeful, having high hopes of myself and the field. What could we do? And I came back, like I was coming from the background of AI and metacognition, and if we can make people think more efficiently and think about their thinking and the ways they are working, we could do great jobs. 15 years forward, the more I learn about the field and the nitty-gritty of how learning and working interact in our social systems, and the more I understand how consulting work, and the details of consulting, how does it work, and the more people start considering me a subject matter expert, the more I understand that actually arriving to that level of making us think about the ways we think at work and how does that affect our work lives to make it better, how hard it is. Super hard. To the extent that 80% of consulting projects actually fail. This is a known fact. This is not something that I'm saying, something that is out of the blues. So it's very hard, yet when it works, those pioneers, those innovators, when it really works, they rhyme like a charm. Those teams make the best teams on the planet. They are great teams. How do they, like the exponential growth that they have is so different from others. So it's easy to go to a company, help them with what the leadership team asked for, a training package, instructional design, boom, delivered, I'm done, and go home, sleep well, and I'm done with my job. But it's very hard to do this, to walk with them the walk, to go through the journey with them step by step, to feel what they are feeling, to try to scratch deep What are the motivations behind what's going on? Why are they really facing those challenges? How can those challenges be met? And what are the actions that are causing those, that are coming out of those motivations? And then when we learn this, how to motivate them to take this in their own hands. I don't want to be teaching anyone. I don't want to be instructing anyone. I want them to take that love of learning to do the job by themselves and leave them with that to tick, with those explorations and then those experiments and then them being one of those great teams. So that's the bit that brought me to organizational design and connecting it with learning. This is a picture that I saw that many others, not only me, there are many voices in the field, still very few in comparison to the huge consulting field. They're talking about so many different, there are voices coming out about regenerative organizations, how to turn organizations into agile, how to go back to learn from nature and how our human nature works. And that resonated with me, so I started practicing those kind of, let's say, new ways of working and also trying them, and with failures and successes and learning from different organizations, we hope that we maybe are onto something. So here today is an invitation for all of us. Let's take it as a learning journey, and let's not be, you know Dilbert? Anybody's familiar with Dilbert? He likes to con people and he likes to insult people, and that's what consulting is to him. So hopefully I will not be consulting you today. Feel free to challenge me, guys. It's an innovative space, a safe space for all of us. And also to bring your own wisdom. There are fresh minds, there are some experts in the field I heard among the attendees, and there are different experts from different sites. So welcome to this learning journey. Now that's about me. Let's stop talking about that. How about you? What brings you here? What are your intentions? What are your aspirations and desires? What do you want to learn? I'll kindly ask you to take either a notebook or a post-it and reflect for a minute why I am here. What do I want to get out with? Leave them around you guys and keep it. If you want to share in a bit. Just before that, I promise I'll give you the second. Have you heard of this facilitator who is super crazy and asks people to breathe at the beginning of workshops? Anybody heard of her? Yeah? Good, because if you haven't, today you have the chance to say afterwards that you've met her and you've been in one of those workshops. But jokes aside, I am a neuroscientist and really transforming our breath from the very fast and shallow breathing to slow, deep, for as little as 2 minutes could release the stress that we might be coming with and bring higher levels of creativity. So I'll ask us to, this is a 30 seconds timer. For 30 seconds, imagine yourself in your favorite place. That's my favorite place. That's not me, but that's my favorite. It's a lake in Switzerland. Imagine yourself in your favorite place. Take a deep breathing cycles for 30 seconds, and I'll notify you when it's over. Ready? You don't have to do it. It's an invitation. 1, 2, 3, let's start. All right. Now take the next 30 seconds to write down why are you here? What do you want to achieve? There are pens. Yeah. Pass it around. There you go. Sorry? I don't think this is a mic for... Yeah, I try to raise my voice. Some people are not able to hear very well. Am I very low voice? Good? Okay. Okay. Are you done? Does anyone feel like sharing? Anybody? Go ahead.
So I have two intentions. One is to learn something I can bring back to improve my team's organizational health, and then to identify opportunities to share the best practices that I can share with my clients.
Say it again.
So I need opportunities to share best practices with my clients.
Nice. One more.
Looking for opportunities, life hacks related to my business.
What's your business?
It's a mobile application for bartering.
For?
Bartering, exchanging. items.
Exchanging.
It's a marketplace.
So guys is looking for opportunities. Cool. So that's our agenda. We already went through the check-in, and now we will have a small introduction to what is organizational design. And then what is it? What is the promise? Why it is thought to bring something to our ways of work, worlds of work, and startups in many cases here. And then we will have a look at some of the activities that are practiced in the field, and then we will roll our sleeves and work together in different cases, right? It's a very difficult, ambitious goal to introduce you to like it's an ocean, and we'll try to oversimplify to see what can we get out of it. Right, so a few agreements before we start for the working mode. I'm stealing from the liberating structures technology. I don't know if some of you have heard of it or not. It's a way for bringing people together into safe spaces to learn and actively work together. So whomever is here is the right people. Whatever happens is the only thing that could have. We already shared some of those elements to be empathetic, mindful while we're working. Consider yourself in yes land, accepting the person, challenging the idea. So yes, if somebody, while we're working or talking, suggested some idea, try to empathize with their perspective and then challenging it. So yes, and. Also, if you feel like this is not for me, I thought use the 2 feet rule. You can take your 2 feet and wave a goodbye, no strings attached. Also, there is something that could be brought by everyone. That's what we believe. I'm not here just to be on a one-way directed learning, but it's a shared learning. So feel free to pop in and bring up your ideas. Everyone takes something and everyone gives something. One final thing. Let's suspend our job titles for a second. There are fresh minds, there are experts, there are different levels, but we can all always learn something new from each other. Do you want to add anything? Any questions? Super cool. Let's start. What comes to your mind when you hear the word organizational design? What are your aspirations? What are your, like, what's the great thing that you hear, like, think of? Optimizing? Maybe. I'll give you the chance all to bring in your thoughts. Get up your mobile phones and scan the code and contribute. I'm enjoying reading the cloud as it grows. Team health, planning, self-organized teams, organizing powers, rules, new ways of work, designing, CRM systems, structure, intentional applying, helping individuals succeed. Cool. Everyone already contributed? Yeah? Have everyone already contributed something? Oh, there's still growth. And, all right. All right. So we stretch our minds a little bit, and it's not very far away from what people who are working in the field are thinking. Let's have a look at what they think. I'll be presenting you with different definitions that come from different organizational design agencies that are leading in the progressive side. Some of them are in Europe, some of them are in the US, some experts that are, like for 20 years they've been involved in this operational issues. And what I want you to do is to kind of take a notebook or a note, scratch notes, and see what pops up to you. Like, what is this, like, what did you like about their definitions? What feels odd? What is far-fetched? Like, I'll be presenting each definition for a few seconds and then move on, but I'm not talking, right? So, ready? Here is Philip Sheldrake. He's a philosopher of organization, and I like his mind a lot. He thinks that cooperation between people is the #1 challenge for humanity. That's the motivation behind his work. All right, the second one. Take your notes. The third one, the founder of the Ready, it's one of the most known agencies today. Maybe some of you have read his book also, Corporate Rebels. Now let's move to the more HR-oriented people, CIPD, what they think about it. Another HR perspective, human and performance. Final one from the academic background. I think this is the last one. Right. The reason that I asked you to go through this is to not to demotivate ourselves by so many different perspectives, but to appreciate that not only us in the room, but also even the people who are working in that field, having so many different perspectives. And sometimes the level of Zoom, some of them focus on the technology for how people could work together virtually, and others are focusing on the performance of the people. A third perspective could be operational, and what could we do for people to... So first, to acknowledge the variation that is there, and to also see that you could choose for yourself what you need for your own team. And there is one thing that, to me, it appears that they are all those different ideas, they have a root together. Does anyone want to give it a try? What is the shared element between those different perspectives? Exactly. So it's all about the how we work together. And one of the greatest minds in organizational design said once, you can do the greatest strategy in the world, but if you don't organize for that, organize yourself for that strategy to be implemented, it's just a strategy. So how we work together is just as important as whatever we're working on. Why I'm saying this, it seems very obvious, right?
You mentioned that the strategy of the work that I should implement is more important than the work.
No, the strategy. So Samir, what's your name? Salim is saying, are we saying that the strategy for the work is more important than the work itself? Actually, it's in between the strategy and the work, the result. It's the how. It's the how we are working together and learning together to achieve that strategy and turn it into results.
It's the path.
It's the it's the how. Yes. So sorry, come again?
No, I'm saying to reach the work, we have to go with the right strategy. Not that just we have to plan.
Yeah, but organizational design is more concerned not with the strategy specifically, not only, not with the result, but with the how. This is the it boils down to that point. Amazing point. Like this is why we're talking about this. When you go to companies, ask them to put their budgets on the how. Most of the time, it's not what they want to focus on. Give me the marketing. Let's put more on the sales. Let's put more on the marketing. Let's put more on shining products, making our product feel the greatest, or like put the huge vision out there for the world. But what we are hearing from Dina is that unless there is a great how, what you're doing is just a strategy. It doesn't move. So that's what organizational design, at least to me, feels like, to do the how together. What do you think of, what elements could you think of that affects strategic design or the how we work together? Can you think, what are the things that we, in organizations, in teams, in startups, what could affect the how? mindsets,
I was going to say
clarity.
clarity. With startups, with the experiences that I have with startups, is there's always a tendency to pivot if the strategy is working, but then it doesn't count. And so that means that the team, there is no clarity because normally it could be working on A, but it could be time it could be working on B.
Clarifying on a continuous basis. What else? Culture. Awesome. What else?
Changing teams, changing different teams. So
What do you mean by that?
there is no cohesion between the teams.
So the way the teams are cohesively working together? The environment. What else? The harmony between the team. What else? What else? There's still so many more things that affect.
I would say everything. From where your building is, at what time you start.
So what is it?
So we say everything actually. So where is your building? Are you working offline, online? How many?
The medium, the technology.
The whole ecosystem that we have.
What else?
That's the timeline.
The plans. So here's another, or what you're saying is also like in cohesion with what we also witness, and that's why it's very difficult. The structure, how we structure the organization, is it a matrix, is it flat, is it hierarchical? The way we communicate, are we meeting on a weekly basis, are we not, are we meeting online, offline, is the half of the team here, half of it not here, nomading somewhere and hiking and working? The values that we share, are we on the same page in the values or are we not? What culture, and culture is like, what are the behaviors that we are showing to each other? What decision-making processes are we having? Do we have to go back to the leader every time, or the supervisor, or is it laissez-faire, everyone does what they want? The tools we are using, sometimes we change one tool in the way we are working, and then suddenly innovation starts spreading around, floating around, and so on and so forth. So there's so many things that affect that. But again, it's like everything, what Khalifa said, between the strategy and the result. Well, if it's everything, holy moly, then how am I planning to like talk about it in 1 hour? It's a heavy thing. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying that if it's everything, then you run a SWOT analysis and then, or you know, scale them like in a manner like ascending or descending, which one is the bigger factor, and then narrow it down.
Right.
In order to triangle to the one that least affects your
Prioritization, sort of. Yeah. So I want you to like have a reflective moment. If everything is in between, then what are we doing? Really, like what should we focus on today? Give it some thinking.
Maybe the link between all of these.
That's a great point. How?
Do that.
It's actually relational. There is a new wave in organizational design that's bringing sociologists. This is a very intelligent comment. They're thinking, sociologists have been studying humanity for so long, and in business we don't consult them. We rarely consult sociologists.
Yes.
So there is a new wave that's saying, okay, let's look at the relations between those things, not at those things. Previously, in the old days of how we design businesses, we used to focus on those as chunks, as like, this is the block of how, like, this is the chart, the organizational chart. It's in place, check, let's move to the next thing. This is our performance management system, check, but that doesn't work this way. One thing can affect, it's a dominoes, and it's a very interconnected. So what does that tell us? Look at the relations between those elements. So don't take technology as a blind black box alone and how people interact or communication, and don't go give them training on communication styles, because it's not going to work without you looking at the big picture together and the relations between things. Thank you for that. So, what?
Where is missing in this? Is that we were talking earlier about remote teams. So we've just gone through a piece of work where we've had to say, well, where do we do the work? Because that impacts our values to some extent, our behaviours. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying that this is everything. Thank you for bringing us. I intentionally put it as a bubble. This is not a model or a framework. That these are the only it's just to say there are so many different things between the why we are together till we reach to the the result of our work. Yes, whether we are in the same room, some offices, like some great, big organizations like IBM just finished one of the most innovative buildings before Corona hit, and then Corona hit and nobody's going to the office. They spent millions. And maybe the focus now needs to be shifted to, do we meet virtually? Do we find ways to have days? And some companies are doing this. Some days in the company, like Monday and Tuesday, we are all here. The rest, everyone does whatever they want. Some others are going for the metaverse and virtual avatars. And we're still experimenting with those solutions. Sorry?
Structure is a really important structure, because the more structure it gets, innovation reduces.
Yeah,
Because
maybe it's not the structure per se, but how are we clear about structure is very important. So if I come to you and tell you I am a flat organization and nobody is the boss here, you can have your initiatives if you want, but then when you come to me with your initiative, there is a hidden structure that I'm not telling you about. You have to consult your supervisor, and so your supervisor has to consult me as a leader. Does it matter to you? Of course. It blocked you, right? So there is the clarity about how are we organized, what kind of hierarchical elements are they. Let's see. So Ashiq is saying structure, and structure doesn't mean here that we have to be rigidly structured for us to, this is not the claim. Just to be clear about what kind of structure are we organizing ourselves around. It's like in the family, it's clear that there's a father figure or a mother figure or two mother or whatever. It's clear to the kids. What is it?
That's what there will be an end goal. You have a dream, and unstructure and research.
And structure will?
Unstructure everything else. Just focus on the dream. Rather than structuring.
Let's see. We will come to that actually. Very interesting point. But I want to park it for a little bit, if you allow me. What did you want to say?
It's very subjective depending on the nature
It
of
is.
the business, the kind of people that are more than their tasks. So, some organizations
Indeed.
work smoothly with like an open-ended structure where everyone just brings in their input, and some organizations may
Yeah.
work like a lot more seamlessly if they have a structure. So it's like very subjective.
I like it. We're having a debate over here. We'll come to that during the work. Are you both a banana? No, you're not in the same team.
I also have something. So there is something called agile structure for developing softwares, right? So it states that the team needs to be one, and there should not be any big role assigned to any.
We will come to that. What should we have a structure or should we not? Should we have a team-oriented structure? Yeah.
It doesn't work for big organizations.
You can bring that in the later stage. You wanted to say something?
No, I was just thinking that when it comes to, Dean and I were just saying, when it comes to structure, there's two ways of thinking about it. I work for a COO.
Guys, shall we all have one discussion in the room so we can all actually benefit from all the collective thinking?
So I work for a CEO, who wants freedom for people to kind of think and innovate and all of this. Unfortunately, it means that change management, which is really needed when you're making discussions, goes out the window. So an example is we were all using a particular tool, and then literally that evening he turned the tool off and said everyone is going on this tool, and it caused absolute chaos throughout the company.
Right.
And yes, innovation is great, and yes, having slightly flatter structures does work. But I would caveat that by saying if the company itself is immature, in the sense of it's a new team, you kind of need structure which you can then peter out.
So the point that Laura is bringing up, I wanted actually to skip it because time is very limited, but she's saying it's a two-way street. Sometimes you do need to have rigid structures, somebody to give the final order, because at some point it gets so chaotic. Did I say it in German? Chaotic. Oh, sorry. And from the other side, having a very hierarchical structure, as we know from many experiments in many organizations, it blocks innovation. So what to choose when? And this is a very important point. But we'll come to that when we are playing together. However, now I want us to think of the why. What's the promise? What's the promise? Why we need to focus on organizational design? What does it promise our startups?
Like the opportunity to be impactful. In other words, when it comes to work, you're spending effort, right?
Yeah.
Budget of effort every day to be able to. And you're looking to spending that budget on witnessing drag examples, right? You spend that effort getting something back. So these opportunities to make an impact.
So impact. Impact.
I would say like first initiative is that we will not compromise between the two things, like results and really enjoying the work that we want.
Very nice. Are you cheating from my slides?
Improvement and efficiency.
Sorry?
Improvement and efficiency.
Efficiency. Okay. Of course, efficiency.
Take it right down to the basic needs, then the why very much becomes making sure that you meet your need and the team's needs. If your need is to be an early development type environment, you mean that. If it's to be the high performing team, you mean that. So it's kind of really down to
Yeah. So we heard so many things: impact, innovation, efficiency, performance, reaching milestones, and there are so many different whys that you could think of. Two things that are dominant from what I see over and over that brings the ticking point to the CEO to spend on organizational designs. Two words: VUCA and COCA. Haha. Have you heard of the VUCA word or the acronym? VUCA. So, and why we're saying this, the VUCA is the acronym for volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous world. And it was first coined by the army. It was used like politicians think of also countries as we think in organizations. It's a huge organization. After the attacks of 2001, they were, we have thought of so many things. We have a great security systems, we have this and that, we have a civilization in place, but we still got attacked. So this word started popping up in that space. How can we be future ready? And by future ready means how can we actually tackle those unplanned situations, like what happens in COVID. Nobody was planning for this. We didn't know, like organizations are suffering and we never thought that it will hit. So a future-ready organization, or to be a future-ready organization, is one of the most important issues. Like I want to spend money, but I want to be knowing that I will be resilient against the risks. And it doesn't mean that being ready, that I will be no uncertainty anymore. No. How can we dance with the uncertain, the VUCA world? And by dance, like in the dance, you don't necessarily plan your move. So, like it's a spontaneous movement. So to be future ready is to be that flexible for you to contain what comes your way that you haven't planned for. So that's one of the big whys, which contains some of what you said, guys. Are you convinced? Yeah? Are you convinced with the VUCA as one big why? And the second big why comes from, that's my own acronym. I created the word COCA because it rhymes. This guy, Peter Senge, and this book is considered the Bible in the learning organization term. He coined the term the learning organization. As far as I know, maybe somebody said it before him, but he's the most known figure for that. What he did, what this guy did, he was for 20 years or so like observing what do these great teams do differently. Why some organizations that hit their billion become a unicorn and some others don't? Why some of them are really in harmony and they are really in good, what are they doing differently? So he started having his hypothesis in place, and then he wrote the first version of the book, and then it hit really highly in the market, and he came up with this updated version in 2010, which is very recent, with so many great elements. And he called it the fifth discipline, if anybody is interested to read it. And we'll come to those disciplines. That he thinks those are the 5 elements that the whys behind. So the COCA means to have the organization. If I wanted to be excelling in the future, I have to focus on bringing the talent together to commit, the first call, and to have their capacities always ready for what task they have to do. So focusing on the human element in the organization and the relations between them. So that's a COCA. And I want one of us to read for the main, not hypothesis, but the motivation, why he was so burned to find out how those teams are different. Is anybody feeling like reading? There is this very nice passage that I keep in mind when I go to any team. Yeah? You can read for us this part.
This section.
Yeah. Of the status quo of organizations when he wrote the book, which is still valid.
Okay, so our prevailing system of management has destroyed our people. People are born with intrinsic motivation, self-respect, dignity, curiosity to learn, and joy in learning. The forces of destruction begin with toddlers. A prize for the best Halloween costume, great in school, gold stars, and on up through university. On the job, people, teams, and divisions are ranked. Reward at the top, punishment at the bottom. Management by objectives, quotas, incentive pay, business plans, put together separately, division by division, cause further loss, unknown, and unknown.
So what he noticed is that in the majority of organizations that are following the management system, as it used to be called, for those progressive practitioners come to play, is destructing the organization and the people inside of it. And he was like looking for ways to, how can we change that? And how it is what you mentioned, it's blocking innovation, it's burning people's minds, it's doing lots of, and it's not giving anybody any good thing. It's not, there is no even a good successful factors, not even financially. So is there some other way to do things? And that's how he started analyzing what teams are doing differently. So what are those teams doing differently? We'll go through those elements very fast again because the time is ticking. I'll be policing the time. What I want to encourage us to do is take note of what makes sense to you, right? Because we'll not see them again, but you will be working with those elements. So what he noticed is that those progressive organizations or learning organizations have 5 elements that are prevailing, or 5 patterns. The first pattern, you can call it whatever. Mind you, the acronym, like the expressions are not important, because you can call it personal mastery. But what is important is that what you can see in the picture. The pictures are my thing, not Peter's thing. Yes. So what do you see in the picture? I thought the picture would keep the ideas very. So the lady is trying to catch the sun. And what he means with personal mastery is something similar. It's not to be the masters as we like in the 50s and 60s, the heroic styles of business. You are the hero of your startup and the next best thing and so on. This is not what he means, but rather he takes the meaning of continuously clarifying your own intentions. Why are we doing what we are doing, and what inner strength I need to gain for me to achieve that. So this kind of continuous clarification of intention is what he calls personal mastery. And that's why I chose this picture, because it's like the sun inside you, to care a lot for it as much as you can, as an individual but also as a team. So that's the first thing that they do different. The second thing, and here we see the lizard, a very beautiful lizard. What is very special about the lizard? The adaptability, right? So it changes its color based on the situation.
Yes.
So that's the thing. That's why I chose the picture. The mental models of teams, and what he means by that is that those teams that are forming those great organizations have a habit of being very adaptable. And their mental model is the flexible mental model, not the fixed way of thinking. So they're very flexible in how they adapt to changes. And that needs what? How can we be adaptable as a team? Depends on the situation, but we need to, me and you, if we are in the same team, we need to have a conversation, and this conversation needs to have a specific element, which is reflectiveness. To reflect on what we've done right, what went wrong, how can we overcome this next time, and so on. So having those reflective conversations and adapting to changes.
Doesn't that require a huge amount of psychological safety within teams?
It does, and that's why I asked you guys to know, there are so many things that I cannot put in the workshop time. It's a huge book, and there are so many other books that are more or less in the same line, different wording. So yes, psychological safety. What else?
But how can we implement the psychology person, for example, in this whole system?
We'll see. So this is a continuous process.
Which point between the team or the planning?
How do you think? If I'm having a meeting with you and I'm being judgy, or like you're afraid to speak up, to tell me, boss, you did, I think that was wrong what you did.
Or maybe to give credit to employees.
Yeah, so to have this culture of having both of us psychologically feeling safe to have a conversation that's reflective.
I think we're also spreading the tasks in an equal way between the workers. Maybe it's something that the ambient or atmosphere is more friendly.
That will come, yeah. That's a great point related to another pattern. Shared vision. You can create the best vision in the universe and be on your own and ask people, keep telling them, this is our vision. No, it's not our vision, it's your vision. So what these teams do different is that it's the really the our vision. Is the people are not buying in your vision. It doesn't work. No matter how much you try. It might work, but they will not be innovative. So it involves like what you see here, this little flower with the butterfly and the environment around them and the wind that's coming, the blow. It's co-created. Our nature is co-created. It's not there is no one head that's doing this. They are doing it together. And if we want to succeed, we need to replicate that pattern that we see in nature in our systems, in our social systems. What that implies also is that the creation of the co-creation of shared visions will let people feel, I can commit. This is something I co-created, so I'll commit to it. So that's another very important point. The next is learning as a team sport. And by learning here, it's different from personal mastery in a way. That one is more focused on the intentional inner strength on a personal level. Here is that we are thinking together for us to work together. So it's a team sport, really, what you were saying. So for us to be efficient, this team needs to work as one thing, not me against you, and I'm competing with that other lady because I want to show her that I know better, and it doesn't work. It will hit back. I hear myself. And the last one, do you know the story of the elephant? So there is this old legend, Indian legend, I think, that goes like this, that three people were they saw the elephant for the first time. They were trying to explore what is it and to understand what is this huge thing. But one of them is impaired with hearing, the other is impaired with seeing, and the third is so each one of them can do something but cannot do something else. And each one of them would explain to the other, what is it? So this is like, it seems like a rock, it seems like a huge chunk. The other one was just listening, so he's like, no, it seems like a huge cone with this big voice, blah, blah, blah. So the three of them, each one of them alone, couldn't figure out what is it. So they started explaining for each other, what is it? Together, they figured that it's an elephant. But alone, none of them reached to that point. And this is a story that's used often in systems thinking. Have you came across the systems thinking practices? Some of you have. So systems thinking brings this understanding of systems before we tackle challenges in them in a separate way. So what he thinks, Peter Senge thinks, that if we look at one issue at a time, we cannot actually reach anywhere. We will spend so much money, we will not fix it. Unless we take this elephant view, and it takes all of us, and it takes training, and it takes different types of tools for us to understand the system that's causing certain issues, and only see that every one of us, even the leader, can only influence. They cannot change the things. So these are the main patterns that Peter Senge found. What else do you think of? That is that might be in teams that are super innovative that you've witnessed. They have fun, yeah. It's part of the. Thank you for bringing this up. Learning as a team sport brings the informality of learning, which is really cool. I was like 10 years ago when I go to a client, I wouldn't ever dress so comfortably like today. I'm in cotton. I used to like, you know, in suits and high heels and whatever. At some point I felt like I'm talking about human orientation and working like and mimicking the nature. I should start like by walking the talk. So having fun is part of that. Being informal is part of that. Feeling that you're bringing part of you, the human you, the vulnerable you, the courageous you, to the space is part of that. What else?
Dealing with mistakes.
How?
To adapt, as you said before, and to like keep the encouragement and your vision clear.
Right.
Because we all make mistakes, and it's upon how fast we can like correct them or shift on the other side.
Accepting that we are humans, we all make mistakes, is part of it as well. There are so many other elements that could be found in millions of other models, frameworks, perspectives, and blah, blah. And this is not to tell you that, again, there are so many other perspectives, patterns that were found in different, and this is to tell you that I'm very knowledgeable, blah, blah. So don't feel discouraged by what you see and, oh, this is so much to learn. Start from somewhere and take again what you need. And another point that is very important, some of those are conflicting. So a person who is working in Peru and found that specific things work in Peru, so to speak, in a mid-sized organization, and he wrote a book about it. And then someone who is working in a startup in Dubai, I want to apply those elements, but maybe it doesn't work for your environment. Always remember to start from where you are, with what you have, with your own needs, and get inspirations from wherever you like. So that's, and the third point, which is very important, there are certain voices in the field that it's total crap. And I'm sorry to say that. There are voices that are very loud. They have hundreds of thousands of followers on Twitter, on LinkedIn, or whatever. They're the trusted consultant. What they bring in is crap. And they are really, so including myself, take everyone's thoughts with a grain of salt. That's the gist of it. Right, so I'm gonna skip all of those. This is from BWC. So you can just see that focus on what you can control. These are the principles. So the 5 principles that we saw from Peter Senge's perspective, you would find some of them in other models. You might not find them. You find intersecting perspectives, curiosity, courage, commitment. So they're mostly. So I'm just skimming those. And patterns that you could find in Agile organizations, more or less they are the same. They experiment, they learn together, they are informal learning, they are trusting, they are psychologically safe, blah, blah, blah. I'm gonna also skip this part. This is the part that you were mentioning, that it's a double-sided problem, that the assumption here is that, it's by the people, for the people, and that we are all caring about this. No, some of us do not. Really, some of us do not care. Some people just want the money. Show me the money. So that's this double side. But if you want to learn more about this bit, I'll keep it for a different workshop. It's a huge thing. And this is where neuroscience comes in. That's why, what I learned that could help us from that perspective, but I'm skipping that. But yes, it is a double-sided challenge. Let's get our hands dirty. Are you excited? So what are the activities? There are millions of different ways of working and tools and technologies and things that we could try together. But what we want to do today is just have a taster, really a taster. And you could come up with whatever you feel like. So what I did is like just analyzed most of what we do in the field. I found that most of the clutter boils down to three types of activities. We are either working on how we are thinking, either individually or together, so the rethinking, or about the restructuring of how the relations between things are, or we are re-engineering a specific process. That's mostly what we do. Yeah? And one example, or some examples of that, take your meeting drills, for example, and see how can we improve the way we are meeting? What makes a healthy meeting? And then see how to transform that. Or how are we doing feedback for each other? Do we have a feedback culture or not? And they work on it. I just put there some sample activities. Do we have regular alignments with each other, or is everyone living in their own silo? Should we introduce alignments or not? And so on and so forth. So these are some types of, like, really there are millions of different ways of work, but just to give you a hint of what we are talking about, like and now for the experimentation, we'll just do it now. We'll have it. So what we're going to do now, we'll play a small game. The bananas can sit with Anam. Take yourself to Anam. And the gummy bears stay on this table. Let's move. And then the nuts eaters go to the nuts lane. And the last one is for the Snickers, next to the nuts are here. Pun intended, huh?
And Snickers and gummy bears, so I just think all Snickers are here.
Okay, Snickers stay here, no problem, and gummy bears there. So bananas, Snickers, nuts, and gummy bears. Did you find your team?
Two gummy bears.
Yeah, there are so many gummy bears. Where are the gummy bears? Gummy bears.
Oh, these two gummy bears are
Maybe you can join. Oh, he doesn't like you guys. So here are the nuts. Okay. What we are going to do, we will have different case studies, each group one. And what we'll do is first read it, analyze it, understand what's the problem. Then I'll just, once you read it, analyze it using the patterns of innovative teams, of learning teams. And then you will have some time to design a solution for that issue, right? So I'm going to police the time with this, guys. When I do this, it means that the time for the previous activity is done, and you need to move to the next one. So 5 minutes, we'll take 5 minutes for reading and understanding the case. Then we'll have 10 minutes to discuss among ourselves and analyze. And then 15 minutes to co-design. And feel free to come here, take whatever you need, charts, different, to design your There are dots, there are cards, there are different elements. However, once we are done with the designing, we will share with each other. So each team will present the problem and the solution to other teams, like in a global World Cafe style. You have only 7 minutes to present, and then 3 minutes for others to challenge us, to give us feedback, to improve the solution, or to have questions. And that's it. I put for you 2 things before we start. You can pick the elements that you want in your solution. Yeah? And I put the chart for you. This is a canvas that I came up with to help teams, organizational design for solving their issues. The yellow part is for the understanding, the why we're doing what we're doing. What is the problem? What is the context behind it? Then the green part is mostly around the what. What is it? Or like, who is involved? Why they should be involved? Whom are we missing? What's the process? What are the activities that would be entailed? What's the setup? Do we need to have specific decision making, styles, whatever, rules? And the last one is mostly with the how. So, oh sorry, I switched. The what is the green? No, the how is the green. And the what is like the underlying guidelines to ensure that there is psychological safety along the way. Do we have, what's the impact that we want to achieve differently? And if there is any obstacles that we might face. Yeah? You don't have to follow it, it's just an inspiration. Ready? Steady? Okay, I'll start counting the time. And I'll pass by to any questions before we start? So we have now 5 minutes, right? Which problem do you have?
People's definition of urgent often is not actually urgent, it's for planning.
Oh, nice one.
Have you read it? You need to allocate someone to be the writer, and my handwriting is terrible, so I can't be the writer. So what are our initial thoughts on this?
No bananas.
Where do they go from now?
Which problem did you get? If you need anything, just shout out. I'll be around.
They face a lot of resignation and things that make work failing.
minute is left for the discussion and understanding of the problem.
Do you have a rough idea on how much longer the entire thing might go for?
Half an hour?
Half an hour?
What?
No, just wondering.
No. Actually, still more.
There's more.
Are we in trouble?
No, I mean we started late, so I'm just asking.
Okay.
We can break this down into you learn it in sort of sections.
Have you already started analyzing?
I think what we've kind of come to is on a very sort of basic level. The problem is that there just isn't an uptake of the learning and development opportunity. And we broke that down into people are saying they don't have time. Were they really involved in the learning and development process? So are we actually giving them a
So
role?
how would you tackle that issue?
So
Knowing that we have those principles or patterns.
So collaboration through understanding what people want to learn, how they want to learn. So we're podcasting everything.
We are data informed, right? So we will look at who is working and what they are working and maybe encourage them to improve better and then look at their data, what they learn.
Yeah, but you need to design for them a solution, right? There's no that we will encourage them to learn. How is the question?
I mean, we could host small seminars and like discussing on how important this knowledge is in their career, not just right now, but even in the future, if they want to.
Do you think that would solve it?
I would say it will like not permanent, but like
Why?
because I mean.
So the basic principles that we discussed, the 5 principles. Are you wearing they are summarized somehow here. They should be part of the solution. You can start already thinking of a solution that will be experimental, encourages this kind of them being involved in the.
You can choose which bits. You can, before we come up with a formal learning and development strategy, you can kind of experiment and choose little bits and see whether in person or online learning works for you.
Yeah, you're going to the right direction. There's no right and wrong direction, by the way, but there is a leaning towards more innovative, more learning design. You can feel free to grab items to show how are you solving the issue from there. So the time is over for the time for understanding the issue is over. And did you already start analyzing?
Yes.
Yeah, and what are your thoughts? Do you want to share some thoughts?
Yeah.
We were talking about like poor planning will reflect to urgent problems because you will not cover all the things that might happen. But when you put like correct planning, you will spot out the things that might happen.
Right.
Budget can be chosen as a priority, but the environment is creating urgent tasks. So the priority should be to make an environment that doesn't have urgent tasks. So you can do bigger
Right. How do you want to show it? So you can grab items from there to show your solution, or you don't have to, or go with the canvas style, whatever you like, to show others how are you solving the issue, to present your solution. can grab stuff to show your design for the rest of the teams. You can already grab elements, things. You can use the canvas style or whatever you like, right, to explain the problems. Or use that one. I'll see it. Yeah, nice.
Different styles like that not challenge you political agreement fine. So that's given the space to have the conversation, what actually matter for them, and then like let's say, is that fit the market, the target, for that. So this kind of I would say conversation creates the alignment, rather than someone at the end call the shot without making like sense. Why? Why you decide this one? What's the rationale?
I think that one why is really key.
Yeah.
So I think I heard you say at one point, the manager say I'm unhappy, and then we went to the response would be, well, what would make you
If
happy?
you,
There's kind of a different
I see
step
that
there.
you're having a seamless conversation. So if you need something, just call me.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you started already designing, you can feel free to grab stuff from there. How you want to show your solution to others, or do you want to draw or cut, whatever you like, right? Or maybe nothing, just talking. What? It's up to you. Telephone. So it's the time for analyzing is over officially. Now start working on your solution and how you want to present it to other teams when we are visiting. How you want to show what you came up with, right? You have 10 minutes, and then if we want more 5, then we'll add.
Oh yeah, because of the face. I can pretend congratulations if you want.
Yeah, actually perfect.
Pretend.
I mean, you wrote something.
Sorry? In process.
Yeah.
Can we just do something?
Of course. Yeah. You can also like do with Lego, and there's Play-Doh, and yeah, there's so many things to play with. Go play. Have fun. How is it going? This team is
We're like snacking on your food and stuff.
for nothing.
Like you said,
Split,
the
yeah,
leadership,
yeah. Split into
leadership.
Are you having fun? Or are you very
Yes.
serious? Okay. it with you. We'll use it later.
We have suppliers encouraged if we want them to come up and some ideas for how to get through to the next stage. You review your
For
options.
later, please.
You review your options and then
Keep it for later. We'll use them later.
Can I just get some clarification from you? On
Sure.
Using the organisational design principles, are we on the right lines if we say experimentation as an example would be something along the lines of people doing having options of what micro-learning
Totally.
podcasts,
Yeah.
blah, 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 and they get to experiment with different types of learning
That could be.
methodologies and they choose.
Yeah, so the element of experimentation is there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you keep this for later use? We'll use it later. We'll use it later, no? Keep it with you. All right, I think, guys, you need to start working on the presentation. What are you presenting to others? You need to present for them the problem because they don't know each problem in 2 minutes maybe, and then 5 minutes for what's your solution is, and to show and tell your solution, why it makes more sense than others. And remember, the solution, the more it has, the more elements from the innovative patterns of learning teams it has, the better, right? So is there this element of experimentation? Is there is an element for learning as a team sport, for reflectiveness? Are you considering the zoomed out picture? Are they understanding the system? And so on and so forth, right? 7 more minutes. This is for later use. Keep it with you.
That's for what?
We'll use it later when we are visiting the teams. I see somebody has already started. Design.
we're free flowing.
Why not?
How do you make it into a team sport as an example?
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Where's your solution?
Oh,
It's currently here.
Okay. You have 5 more minutes to go. Yeah, start already. Start already having fun. Where is your solution? Yeah, 5 more minutes to, maybe you need to, yeah. You don't have to, but it would be nicer to show others, right?
And does it feel like you've got, like, the awareness for change?
Can I have fun?
Of course. I think yeah. There are pens here, but there are others. Are you done with the pen? Yeah? Mm-hmm. Here. Welcome. Nice. Where are you?
Where are we? Yeah, that's a good question.
Are you having fun?
Are we having fun? I'm not quite sure I'd call
No.
this Saturday fun, but yeah, we're getting there.
Okay. You want to play? Three more minutes to go. You don't want to have a fun element to the, like, no?
Sorry, what?
You don't want to have some elements from the,
The problem is,
it's a little bit difficult?
Elements? No, our topic is easy.
Okay. As you like.
Okay, hold on, let me do it.
Maybe you have,
Can we get a visual aid?
yeah.
Yeah, or it's just my idea. I've got an idea.
Both. We talked about the carrot and stick approach, though, didn't we? If there's no consequence for you not learning, and if there's no benefit to you not learning,
Wow, how beautiful.
You're building something.
What's up? Are you changing groups? Are you switching groups?
No. No, it's just we've been like chit-chatting away and like no, this is really good.
You can. Sure.
Just I mean like how long is a piece of string, you know? Big one.
Two more minutes.
only now someone.
Name the 1 minute.
I like those, don't you?
Yeah, that's cool actually. Oh, they're
Yeah.
little building blocks.
Yeah. And those two.
Let's just do a little arts and crafts day. Just hang out and build Legos.
All right. Okay. Time is over. All right. Do you need more time?
We need maybe like 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Do you need more time? Okay. You're done? Yeah. How much more minutes? Okay. So 2 more minutes for.
Oh yeah, so it means just like just one
Which team has example 1? You? 4. Is that 1? 3. So you have 1. And you've got 2 then, right? Yeah. Okay, done? Yes. I invite you all to visit, come over for us to learn from the first team, and then we'll go in rounds.
Team Banana.
Team Banana to start. Right, Team Banana, you have 7 minutes to tell us. We need to be here. Faster. Who wants to be the speaking octopus? Or do you want to?
I think we're gonna.
Okay, you're gonna switch now.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So what's the problem?
The problem? So it's a financial tech startup, and the dev team have recently shipped their next feature. The PM is very unhappy with the result, and then the dev team, which has got 5 developers, 2 of them think that the feature is great and successful. 1 of them is feeling pretty apathetic about it all. 2 of them are pushing towards stopping the work on the next feature and then redoing it again. And so that means that they essentially lose another sprint also on it.
So what's the problem from your opinion? What have you analyzed?
So according to us,
Yeah.
as far as I recall, the problem is communication and the expectations that were communicated of the solution.
Expectation of?
The product or the final result.
Yeah.
So the communication with respect to expectation is the problem here.
Great. So what have you done to help them?
Nicole? So the key first step is, because expectations were not met, is to level set those expectations from the outset of how you move forward. So we have, basically, it can be as long as a loop as it takes in order to clarify and state the intent for the solution that the team is developing. Once we've kind of gotten out of this stage, only then can we proceed to identifying alternatives.
Mm-hmm.
And then not every idea necessarily comes to fruition, so we want to create space for creativity, but eventually we'll review and down select the strongest potential alternatives.
Wow.
We'll run analysis on those limited options, again, because nobody has this kind of time to you can't analyze and treat every potential alternative with the same level of rigor. So ultimately this isn't a democracy per se. Ultimately, the responsibility does fall on the product manager to work with the team to identify the solution, which then everybody commits to resubmit.
Yeah, on that step, like, we go back and forth unless we have like a unanimous solution.
Right.
We list them down and then, measure them accordingly. So yes.
Right. Give them a clap of hands. Is it clear? Or do you feel like there is something that you need to clarify, guys?
What have we missed?
She looks so confused.
So they try to have the principle of learning, of experimentation and iterative growth. The element of what else? The
Rooted in courage, because to
democratic decision making, courage. Also having a systems approach, so they didn't say this is the definition of done and that's it. I like that. How do you like it? So you can call it like so this could be called whatever, the meeting for definition of done, the meeting for expectation alignment, the meeting like you can call
actually, like I like the point. I took this one, that's why I like it.
Yeah.
If your manager come unhappy, you say, oh, we need a group therapy. Then you sit again and it's like code for the thinking. So it's unhappy, we acknowledge that. We sort it out rather than try to blame who is.
Very beautiful.
Yeah, so that's
what are some suggestions or feedback for them to improve their solution?
Maybe when the group manager is stating his unhappiness, he should also say that why is he unhappy. He should try to take their perspective and then apply his own reasoning to show that he is unhappy.
Yeah.
That was one part that we also discussed internally, was that maybe bring back the initial requirement and then say what was what requirement was met and what's like missing out here and what needs to be fixed in the pre-existing requirement.
So that's a very important issue. In many teams other than tech, other than agile tech, we don't sit together to agree on when do we say that we are done. When do we say that the feature, the product, the service, the whatever that we are providing the public, the clients, is ready and is done. And that's one way to solve that issue instead of shaming and blaming. Thank you so much.
Very pretty.
Before we go forward, now every one of you has dots. We will give 3 dots to the best team, then 2 dots to the second best team or solution, and then 1 dot to the third. So we will go around and then vote, right? Or you can already vote if you feel like.
I think it's fair to see it first.
It's fair to see. Oh, let's go see the next one. Who has example 2? Yay! Let's go. You have 7 minutes to present for us what was the problem. I'm gonna fix 7 minutes for you. Shoot! Who wants to speak? Yeah. I like it. It's messy. Very practical.
I am French educated, so I write connected words, not.
Right. Okay, so what was the problem? Not reading, but telling us.
The problem is there's a startup company.
Guys, can we?
Who deals in delivery things. So the major problem is that they cannot handle or support these delivery things to the customers. So they have lack of management and how to deal with the huge number of incoming customers.
Basically, they have an increase, like there is an increase in the company, but due to the increase in the numbers, they have the inability to adapt to each other. So there's no trust between the members and no communication where they're all like.
Right. So there are issues in trust in the team as they grew from a startup to scale.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what are you suggesting for them to do?
Yeah.
What? All of that. Tell us.
This is all the problem.
Right.
The analysis is that they don't have the ability to adapt because they grow in a huge scale, and this will lead to bad connection, lack of connection between members, and unachieving targets.
Okay.
And no hierarchy in implementing the tasks, and lack of strategy.
How did you decide that they don't have a hierarchy?
Because no one trusts each other.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like they're all self-proclaimed to be
Okay.
and have their own limits.
Right. So, what did you suggest that they should do?
Just flip this up real quick.
Oh, you need to flip it now.
Yeah. Flip the whole thing.
Solution, they should think frequently, so they do some meeting to achieve their target or something, to deal with their business, and split into a small team to ensure the perseverance of their work also, and this lead to share the tasks in equal way. So in this, when they create a good atmosphere and
Smaller teams,
yeah,
Small teams that make sure that
to
everyone's
work.
involved.
higher cohesion. Okay.
Yeah.
Project.
Beside, because they grow in a huge, rapidly way, they should aware about increased risk management.
What do you mean by risk management here?
So how to deal with uncertain things in a professional way.
Mm-hmm.
And this
Company culture.
also improve company
How?
culture.
So company culture is more of like how they can like interact with each other. So maybe like go out, set trips and stuff, so that the members can like bond with each other, increase that trust issue that they have,
Right.
and develop on that.
So your solution, if I just want to make sure I understood, to split themselves into smaller teams, and those smaller teams meet frequently, so the cohesion gets a little bit better.
Yes.
Right. Let's give them a clap of hands. And you can shoot your thoughts, ideas for improvement, questions.
I have a question. I think putting people into smaller teams is always a good thing because it means that you build really strong connections. But in this particular scenario, does it not risk creating silos? And so you have teams really cohesive in themselves, but the wider company is still split, if that makes sense.
Well, the reason why we put split members into smaller teams is because now the main problem in this company is the fact that since it's outgrown, there is no communication, so people do not want to work. So with the smaller teams in place, it's like they're assembled into different projects, each team. So with each team, everyone is involved in a way, and they all communicate.
Right.
So I feel like that would be easier.
Sounds like you all created a system within the system that fosters more accountability by forcing more interactions between like smaller groups. Which is sometimes we really understand. We've all been in that Zoom meeting where someone asks, "Does anybody have any questions?" And it's like a crowd of 40. It's the equivalent of being at a dinner party where everybody's in the same conversation.
Right.
It just doesn't.
What have you missed? What have you missed? Like we talked about 5 principles or patterns that are found in learning organizations or progressive teams to learn together, to experiment, to think in systems, have reflective.
To work as a team.
Yeah, tell me what have you missed and what have you ensured in the solution?
You mean the how?
Yeah.
We were thinking like reflectiveness comes in when you sync up.
Can you raise your voice?
Like reflectiveness will come in when you sync up, you talk about what you can up to.
Right.
Experimentation should be in this manner.
But that's what you guys think,
Yeah.
right? What about what they think?
Like if the goal of the meeting is to talk about what you've been doing, then what other option is there except for being reflective?
So you will engage them in those smaller teams to reflect on what's going on in the company, or just tell them, we need now to split into smaller teams. What's your approach?
When you meet, you reflect on what you've been doing.
Yeah, I'm catching you there. So,
Well, the main thing is like now we're not forcing them like to work with people that they don't know, but it's more of when you split them into smaller teams, right? You're bound to trust your team members eventually.
but that's your assumption, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, how are you testing the assumption?
Have you ever worked with people? I'm very jealous.
I would use values to drive some of the behaviours. So as an example, if you're using a values type approach, you can stop silos theoretically, right? Because you've got a common set of values across the business. And if one of those values is ownership, i.e., as you said, I own that problem, it stops it becoming this is not my problem, let somebody else deal with it. And values are quite good in getting people to be transparent and
Share responsibility.
So what's your suggestion or feedback to them?
I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud.
You're thinking out
yeah.
loud.
I have an input.
What do you have?
So like for the lack of trust, you can have anonymous input and unanimous output. So like when you gave us a QR code, for instance, everyone just puts an anonymous answer, and then unanimously, is like, yeah, this is the one, that meets like everyone's criteria. So yeah, I just came up with it right now.
So, yeah.
Anonymous input and then unanimous output.
Nice. So the one element that's coming from here to anonymize those retrospectives or alignments around what's going on could be anonymized. Okay. How about the bit of validating the assumptions?
We didn't go that far.
Awesome. Let's give them a clap of hands. They still need more time. It's a very tough problem to be honest. Trust is it's a cultural issue, and cultural issues are difficult to tackle. Just to give you a taste of, yeah. Let's go to team 3. All right. What do you have?
We are the.
Wait. Guys, you want to join?
I don't mind. We're the gummy bear team, but I ate the gummy bears, so you've got a pumpkin.
Wow.
That's our.
That's the
That's the
gamification of
Yeah.
it. Okay. What was the problem?
So let me start from the scenario. Okay. Sharp mind is a
Something?
sharp mind is a
Don't worry. Do we need to have your is there something that's worrying you?
No, we're just bitching about colleagues.
Right. All right, we are all ears.
So Sharpmind is a company that has around 600 employees. Okay, but their learning and development department has subscribed to many courses. Okay, for their team to the whole company to work on.
Okay.
To learn from, like Coursera and everything, top courses. But nobody wants to work. They don't have the time to put into that.
Nobody wants to attend?
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
problem is that people are not attending the learning and development activities
Yeah.
that are planned by the learning and development team.
And they've cited time as being the reason.
And
They've cited time.
time. They don't have time to attend those learning activities. Uh-oh. What have you, what's your solution for them?
Well, we started with the problem and we said, people are saying it's time, but is that really the truth?
Aha.
So, is it because they weren't involved in how that learning and development was going to be delivered? Did they have a different type of preference that hasn't been taken into account? And then the other question we asked was around incentives, what's the incentive to learn?
Very nice analysis. From my perspective, maybe some others think. I don't know.
So our solution to this is
So we don't know, sorry, if the cited in the survey or whatever is actually the case. They are saying we don't have time to attend those learning activities, but is it really the case? What's going on underneath? How would you discover?
So our solution to this was like giving a difference of learning styles for them, like options to see what would they prefer in their style of learning. Because some people have difference. The other one is micro changing. So like starting with like small things and then building it up.
Well, how you mean start
Like-
small things?
So like so one example they've given for courses is a podcast. So we could like give them a smaller podcast to watch and then just build it up from there.
So if you start with, if we start by saying instead of you having to do this module, if you start by saying actually you can do a 5-minute, 10-minute, 15-minute podcast in weeks 1 to 4, and we build your appetite for learning. So that's the micro change.
So okay, so that's the micro change bit. So they decided to make the chunks of learning smaller. What else?
So then we included collaboration. So they could do like the employees could team up and start small projects, and that would basically handle the collaboration.
That is based on what they learned from those courses and everything, and they implement it in a team.
Nice. So transfer the learning to their teams.
Yeah.
Make it actually in part of their work.
And you move it from it being emphasis on you learning as an individual and not having time to now there being this group
What could you-
dynamic as in you all need to pull together.
Right.
to do this.
What else?
And then courage. So sometimes people might like they could feel that while learning it and they fail at it, it could like affect them in a bad way. But they don't need to have that fear of failing.
Assessments.
Yeah.
Right. So informalize the learning a bit. That's great.
And create that culture of it's okay to fail.
Okay.
It's okay that you don't meet your targets, but
Very beautiful. And how are you ensuring the experimentation? So you start with this and then what happens?
so for experimentation, we have like podcast and courses and everything, right? So not every employee needs to have the same courses. They can have different courses. They can be divided into different groups. They can even try to teach them other employees what they learn. So these are the things that they could experiment with.
All right.
If you're given access to different resources, you will find patterns emerge of how people learn, and you use that data to build.
Awesome. So
an
that's
L&D model.
this is how you're going to test and validate your assumptions. I like that.
And the final bit we talked about was kind of like commitment, because it has to be a two-way thing. So if I give my time more to learn, what do I get in return for that? So does that is there something in compensation?
Incentivize
benefits?
the-
Is there something in promotion, etc.? So it becomes a two-way street. So if we make it something like that, does that encourage an L&D mindset?
So you will experiment also with incentivizing learning. All right, let's give them a clap of hands. Thank you. Any questions, feedback, ideas to improve their situation, like, or challenging their solution? What?
So like they stated time is the issue. So maybe they can have like a team building activity, like, you know, team lunch, let's say. You know, everyone has time to eat lunch, but then they're interacting, and then, you know, that's like also motivating to like people look forward to, you know, there's like a team building activity, but we're also exchanging ideas.
That's
So
a
on the
nice addition.
ground-
There is actually, they are playing with the formats. They could add to the format the lunch and learn thingy to see what's happening. What else? Any other points? I'm thinking of the lines of, oh, sorry, you wanted to say.
Oh, no.
No, go ahead.
So I keep thinking back to this this lunch is a lunch and learn course with our learning and development team at my company. They say the statistic that 70% of our learning and development actually happens on the job. 10% of, I forget what 20% was, but 10% of it is actually through like, you know, formal
Training.
structured module training. So
totally with you all that time is the stated problem. That's not really what's going on here. So if I were an L&D lead in a company, my very first question would be, okay, what about my training or my L&D program are people not finding relevant and applicable to what I have to do with my job in order to meet my either self or company defined definition of success?
How can we bring the formal to the informal more and more?
Yeah.
I think they were in the lines somewhere to that direction, but then they wanted to validate and move from there what's working, which is a very nice addition to the solution thing.
And then one other thing about the incentive model, I think I come from a consulting background, so all of my time I spend in my job is calculated as a percentage, of my utilization. How much does it cost for my company to keep me on payroll, for me to exist? So if I'm not spending a certain percent of my time doing client-facing work where the client is paying for me to exist versus my company, then I get in trouble. I'm on a watch list. So I think that there are non-L&D stakeholders, folks, whatever, in organizations who have a lot of power to work with other shared services in an organization to create, it's that systems thinking, right? Creating these incentives together. So thinking about utilization targets in a consulting background, how maybe if you actually, if there's actual coordination between these different business units, thinking about, okay, what percent of our time do people actually need to spend learning in order to meet needs across other sectors of the business?
So involving other stakeholders in the process, not only the L&D, which is from my perspective, it seems to be the main problem. We decided for you what to learn based on what we know about your work, but everyone's knowing their work way better. So involve different parties and different stakeholders, and also within the process of experimenting to have their feedback
dealing with
loops.
this problem at work now. And we've got
Awesome.
Yeah, so the problem we've got is that developers will only want to read, they only want to learn new development languages and techniques, but we need them to be somewhat customer facing for our specific business, and they need to learn some soft skills like empathy and relationship deepening, because that's what's going to drive value from the customer. But they don't want to do that, so we're kind of asking, how do we get them to do this L&D? And part of it has kind of come back to, if you learn these things and you become kind of better at what you do, and we derive more value from the customer, we can reward you more. And those vary from, I can pay for you to do some of the learning you really want to do, to I can give you a bonus or more money or promotion.
Cool. Thank you so much again. We took more time here then. And to the final group. Woo-hoo. We're a bit over time, so we started late and apparently. Let's not worry about that. Yeah, go over it.
But we have a very interesting topic.
What is the topic?
Which is poor planning will lead to urgent tasks, or urgent decisions.
So the situation is that there's a technology company, they're doing quarterly planning, and every quarter they plan, we're going to do these things, there's some priorities, and they never hit any of the priorities that they've planned out, because every quarter urgent things come up.
Firefighting.
Constantly. They never get anything done.
They're never getting anything done among the priorities. What?
So our solution is to make plans to cover all the cases that might come. What?
So there's the problem is...
She doesn't seem to agree, so I'm looking at you guys to...
So there's a disconnect, right, between the people doing the planning and the people that are executing, right? And the people doing the planning are existing in an idealistic world of how things should be, but obviously we've got our poor people doing the execution who are existing in the world of reality. And so we said about the quarterly planning. So this was the first bit of the solution was to just move away from quarterly planning because it's not working. And a lot of companies just do quarterly planning because other companies do quarterly planning. But these people are obviously they have stuff exploding and it's on fire all the time. So maybe thinking every 3 months, what should we do, is probably not the best way for them to deliver. So what they need to do is create an environment in which they can deliver what the leadership team want to deliver. And so the priority should be to reduce the number of urgent tasks coming in to make the working environment feasible to actually deliver that. Because as it is right now, we have kind of the dreamers and the doers, and everyone's mad. These guys are really mad. They're writing now.
So how would you do that? How would you bring the dreamers and the executors together?
Good question. I'm so glad you asked.
Yay!
Point number 2. I'll be using data-informed prioritization.
Look at the data expert!
At least someone's counting things. So yeah, it's basically it should be a case of taking what the dreamers want to do, what you'd like to achieve. There might be like some kind of overarching goal or some kind of output, specifically a project or something, and rank that against the realities of the things that are actually coming in, the urgent tasks. Asking, are they urgent? As I was saying earlier, my favourite response to someone saying something is urgent, generally it's not. And generally my response is, actually this is poor planning on your part, constituting an emergency on mine, no thank you. So being able to put those things together and compare them using data seems smart to me as a data officer.
So how are you ensuring the experimentation between, so the management or the leadership, they have their OKRs or objectives and key results set in place, and people are just doing and they are not grooming their backlogs, maybe?
I think they should come to us and see on ground, what is actually.
I like the sales bit. What will you help them with if they come to you?
We will show them in action, these are the problems which we're facing. It's because there's not enough manpower. When this urgent task is coming in, and people, you either need more people, or you need a better infrastructure that can, sort out these priorities that are coming in frequently.
So you will visualize for them the gap.
Yes.
Okay, and then
Success.
how? What's
By
the
working
process?
on the right things.
How?
I have a question about quarterly planning, because I've been in teams in organizations where no one's looking ahead. Everyone's just it's just kind of this constant cycle of reacting to things. So how would you all in this style or structure create space for that forward thinking about how the teams or the individuals are taking in that data and applying it in an iterative way. So maybe it's not all at once or in quarterly terms. Maybe it's on a weekly basis, maybe it's on a daily basis.
Yeah, so it's the same thing, just making sure you can have some goals, it might have 10-year goals, it's fine, chop them down or whatever, but making sure you're not making a roadmap that must be stuck to you. A lot of times I see people make roadmaps, and what that says to me is that either I don't understand how my business works or the working environment, in this case, or any new information that comes in, I will not change my mind, that is it. So it's about, rather than setting projects as a roadmap, setting goals as a whole that you can work towards. Because probably you're more likely to reach the goals if you create a working environment that means you can actually deliver than setting.
I like the direction that this is going through. So you thought not the problem is not setting the objectives. They could have their, if I understood well, the roadmap, but then involve the people that are executing on a regular basis to say this is realistic, or did we face something to have it more flexible?
I just don't think that setting, the quarterly planning shouldn't be setting out like outputs. It should be setting
Right.
targets and goals, and then the team
Leave it for the
teams
teams.
to figure out how to get there.
Right.
And in this scenario, how to get there is, I mean, you can't. It sounds like this company is going to fail in about 2 quarters because their systems keep failing, and that competitor, man, their tech team is really good. They've got really good infrastructure. So it's that case of like, you know, focusing on like what's important right now, like the stability, and then, you know, working on stabilizing environments can contribute to wider goals. It just
Right.
might not be like a sexy new feature.
How? Yeah. Yeah. Go
I
ahead.
have a concern actually about going data informed, because usually in such environment, when you say data informed, it's being used. I have an opinion, and I'm looking for data that supports my opinion.
Well, then you need a better data leadership team.
This is like,
Yeah. All right. So I like where this is going towards. Like, and it's there is a hypothesis, and it's not that we already have a theory, and we're looking for the data to support our theory. It's the other way around. And there is one more thing that's missing in this organization. Have you figured it out as they were talking? So she said a very important thing, which is there is a dreamers team and there is an execution team, and the connection between them is lost. How to bring the connection back?
There seems to be a lack of collaboration, right?
Yeah, but what is it? There is something that's missing between the two teams.
Communication.
Yeah, but how?
Who sets the direction?
Have the same vision.
Feedback.
That's one thing.
I was going to say you almost need because the skill set between the dreamers and the executors is going to be very, very different. So if I think of the way that, even like the way that Dean and I work, we might be aiming for the same thing, but we're going to approach it completely differently.
Yeah.
So you need someone that's in the middle to be able to take both of the feedback and be like, okay, so this is kind of where you're heading. With that, I would say that you also need someone to be able to protect the executors, because if they're constantly getting top-down information from dreamers, there's then way too much noise, they don't know what they're doing, everything becomes urgent, and so all of the data-driven pre-planning, which has kind of happened, ends up going out the window because there's just stress, and you end up back in the
Right.
situation you're in.
Can you tell me
So
the
this-
program manager?
I like how this is like the involvement of people is difficult in, like, when you want to involve 600 people, or I don't know how many, 3,000 in this organization, in the prioritization, it's like huge. And again, if you just do it on your own, maybe the people down there are not able to do it. So there is a feedback loop missing, and there is a missing facilitator for that process.
So we use Scrum Masters, right? So
It could be, you can call it introducing Scrum Master or Agile Coach or OKR like owner, or whatever you want. Like the issue is with the prioritization and the execution and the feedback loops between the two. That's, I really liked how we approached it with bits and bytes from
I have a
everyone.
solution. Maybe just make a separate team for putting out the fire and a separate team for developing new features.
That will come as a result, but we as, like, if we want to introduce an organizational design suggestion, it has to be a process, right? We don't go to the end result and decide on our own with our own assumptions. Once you introduce that bit, they can figure out if they need to have teams to firefight, teams for testing, whatever. But thank you for the giving us. Right. Voting?
Oh, by the way, we need a string too.
you paid for that one.
All right. Let's.
With depth and interest.
Let's.
I'm going to give you a first
so we have to go and assign our stickers, do we?
Yeah. Or we can skip that bit also. Guys, we are way behind the time. We started half an hour later and we finished half an hour later, I think. let's wrap it up there. And you want to vote? Yeah, if you're having fun, go for it.
I promised him.
Okay. Guys, she promised. You want to vote? You can go around and put your 3 dots for the best team from your perspective, second best 2 dots, and
Could
third.
we vote for ourselves?
Oh, no. You could. You could.
It was the best use of strength. Just vote yourself.
Okay, let's do it quick. I don't see any dots anywhere. I see all the dots for the strength team. Oh, wow! Nice. MashaAllah. Woohoo! Let's see who got the. Okay, let's not get competitive now. One more clap of hands for the team who got the dots. Almost the dots. Oh, you got 4 dots. Wow, mashallah. You all did great. Wow. I think that's the leading team.
Well, we've got a pumpkin, so how can we not?
Of course. Let's wrap it up. Thank you guys for the time, and I hope that you enjoyed it. 3 things before we finish. Let's go very quickly. What are you taking home with 1 sentence? Maybe just the fun, maybe more confusion, maybe. Shall we? A string. Gummy bears. Really?
I think that all design is actually it's much more involved than organizational design kind of sounds like, if that makes sense.
Say it again.
So it's much more involved than just having like a correctly set up team or like a correctly set up org chart. It's actually the whole thing. You almost can't work on something in a silo because you'll start looking at one thing and you'll be like, oh, but actually no, it's tied over here and it's tied over here. So you need to have
A holistic view. Right. Any other sharings that you would like to have?
It's a lot of work.
A lot of work. Yeah.
This whole organization design, I think it should start from school onwards. You're not taught to think like this.
Well, yeah, it's different from, this is very important. It's different from how we are taught, but like in the MBA, you're learning those chunks. Marketing, performance management, blah, blah, management, but it's more of a holistic, how you bring those dots together. Yeah.
The structure remains like
Great.
executives, managers, CEOs, it's always
The big variable are people, aren't they? The big variable is people.
People.
That's what makes it really complex. Because
Yeah.
everyone's so different and different needs and wants.
Yeah. Thank you so much again for coming. I would invite you, if you'd like to have more regular meetings, we can have a coffee every 2 weeks and call it the organizational design coffee. I haven't done this in Dubai yet, but feel free to ping me on either LinkedIn or Twitter to add you to a group. If you're interested, we can keep learning from each other with challenges that are coming up. And yeah, thank you for being here. Let's call it a day. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you guys for coming. I just want to